I want to start with immigration.
Sure.
Polling shows it is one of the top issues this election. Do you support President Biden's executive order that blocks migrants' access to asylum when illegal border crossings exceed 2,500 a day?
I'm torn in between on that. I want to see more streamlined paths to citizenship. I want to see a more equitable path for folks that are coming from the southern border into America. I think that will stop a lot of good families that are just trying to get their slice of the American dream here. And I think that we need to find out why those people are being displaced in the first place, what we can do to support them in their own countries to foster a healthy environment to not drive them across the border, and close the porosity of the border. It shouldn't be an easily penetrable wall or holes in the fence. We should figure out how to close it down, and then not deny asylum to anyone.
What more should be done to secure the border?
Additional funding, for starters, less militarization, streamlined, like an expedited process where we're background checking people as they come into the country. I think that would be huge, but I don't think that this is a situation where we need to deploy National Guards. We just need to close the porosity. I mean, you can go to the border and see how easily they're able to penetrate from multiple holes in the fence, the wall, wherever. It needs to be a secure border. When it's a secure border, then we'll cut down on the number of folks.
Should there be a pathway to citizenship for everyone who is currently in the United States illegally?
Yes, I believe so, because we're a nation of immigrants. I'm the descendant of Italian immigrants that came here from Sicily in the late 1940s, again, to get their slice of the American dream, and it was much more accessible to those folks. And we don't talk about how many Irish immigrants, Italian immigrants, and European immigrants came to the country illegally. It just happened quite often. So I think that anybody who's here, we need to recognize that they play an important role in our economic output in our country, and find ways to properly integrate them.
What is the responsibility of the federal government to support migrants who are coming here?
I think the federal government has a responsibility to make it safe, more attainable, easy for people to access that asylum. Like how you asked, do we support denying asylum to people? No, like there needs to be, it needs to happen easier. It's too difficult for them. There's too many barriers in place. So the federal government needs to make sure that they're background checking folks to keep violent criminals out of the country, and letting the good family members that want to come here to work and contribute to our economy show up.
What change, if any, would you make to work visas in particular?
I don't know if I know enough about the current work visa process to propose any changes. I just would like to see everything be more attainable. I've talked to quite a few immigrants that have told me that the work visa process feels like jumping through so many loopholes. I'd like to just see more educational outreach to those folks, like more bilingual translators to speak with those folks directly and let them know what the process is, because I've spoken with quite a few this year that family members that are here on work visas, and they just don't understand the process for it. So educate more folks.
So former President Trump thinks the military should be deployed to go after the Mexican drug cartels in particular. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree with that assessment. I believe that we need to mitigate the influence of the Mexican drug cartels, but I also recognize the root causes. The root cause is that there is a global thriving black market for drug trade in the United States of America because of our antiquated drug policy. And I think that we could deploy the military as much as we want there. Drugs come in through ports of entry through the United States, even more so than they do at the border. And I think that that's putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Let's talk about the economy. National debt is nearly $35 trillion right now. Where does the deficit reduction fit into your policy priorities?
Sure. Yeah. The deficit reduction starts by eliminating Trump's 2016 tax cuts that didn't trickle wealth down to the bottom half of Americans. I think that that's huge. I've worked as a manufacturing engineer. I've coordinated with the Department of Defense, and we just passed an $867 billion a year defense budget. We could easily eliminate $200 billion a year from that budget and not compromise the integrity, the strength, or the operational capacity of our military. So I think military spending is a huge issue to look into.
Do you support extending any of the 2017 tax cuts?
There might be one or two specific things in there. I would maintain whatever the tax cuts were for working families and lower income earners, and make sure that we increase the corporate tax rate.
Do you support any new tax credits? And if so, how would you pay for them?
I will always support new tax credits, assuming that we have the ability to pay for them, and I think we could pay for them through a wealth tax. I think that the billionaire class is getting away with, not paying their fair share of taxes. So I think that if we responsibly garnish that income from them, we can use it to replenish that.
What would be their fair share, would you say? What would you increase that to?
No, it's a good question. I don't believe that billionaires shouldn't exist. Like, we talk quite a bit about federal minimum wage. What about a federal maximum wage? So, during some of the strongest periods of American middle class thriving in our country, we had a marginal tax rate of 90% for the wealthiest of Americans, and especially elevating corporate tax rates. I don't have a specific number to give you, but I will always weigh it fairly and see what we can do.
So politicians often cite eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse as a way to reduce the deficit. Are there any federal programs or agencies even that you would consider cutting?
I don't necessarily think there's federal agencies that I would like to see cut. I see a lot of actually underfunded federal agencies like the ATF, the Environmental Protection Agency. I would really look to explore that. I would look to be on the committees that actually get access to all the budget to see how much every bureaucratic division and government agency is receiving, and I would evaluate it on a case-by-case basis.
No programs that you would eliminate?
I would like to expand programs. I don't really think anything off the top of my head that I would like to eliminate.
And you would pay for them again by taxing the wealthy. So everything would be
reducing our defense budget spending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you support a constitutional balanced budget amendment?
Yes.
So how would you make that happen?
I don't know enough about that, to be honest. I don't.
Okay. On a related topic, Social Security and Medicare, the latest Social Security and Medicare trustees report say Social Security will be insolvent by 2035 and Medicare by 2036. The trustees say in order to keep the program solvent, either revenues need to increase by an amount equal to a permanent payroll tax increase of 3.3%, or benefits need to be permanently reduced for all current and future beneficiaries by nearly 21%, or a combination of those two. Do you support a payroll tax increase and or a reduction in benefits?
I don't support a reduction in benefits, and I don't support raising the retirement age at all. I support scrapping the cap. I think that cap should be eliminated for the wealthiest of income earners in America, and we need to really find out why we've borrowed so much money from Social Security, why it's going to be insolvent, and pay for that through the billionaire, taxing the billionaire class and stopping our perpetual warfare overseas that have cost us trillions of dollars over the last decade.
When you say cap, are you talking about the cap on the amount of income that can be taxed for Social Security, which is like $168,000 or something right now?
$168,000, yep.
Okay, so you just get rid of that altogether. Do you, I guess in terms of solvency, it really comes back to you in terms of the billionaire tax increase. That's what you would use. Should the retirement age be increased?
I don't believe so, no. I think that 65 to 67 for full benefits is a very good retirement age, and I think raising it past that anymore is a discredit to all generations and future generations.
What about means testing? Do you feel like benefits should be based on need or the amount of assets that a person has?
You're saying specifically for people that are incredibly wealthy?
For Social Security, right. Even though they've paid into it, that their amount should be...
I would support that, yes.
Okay, lowered. Congress is right now negotiating a new 5-year farm bill. 73% of the bill is about food stamp programs. Do you think farming and food stamps should be under separate bills?
Yes.
So the bill that passed the House Ag Committee would result in a nearly $30 billion reduction in SNAP benefits over 10 years. Do you support that?
No, I don't.
What would you support? Would you support any cuts to SNAP? Do you want to see it increase?
I would like to see SNAP benefits increased. I think that they're not even keeping the pace with inflation right now.
Okay. The Ag Committee approved an amendment to the bill that would close the loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill that allowed for intoxicating hemp-derived products like the Delta 8 THC. Do you support closing this loophole, which would be a big blow to hemp farmers?
I would have to hear the specifics of it. Delta 8 is like its own entity. It's actually a synthetic derivative of hemp. So I know that the studies indicate that it's all pretty unsafe at this point, and it's inconclusive. So I would have to hear more about it, and I would be very open to it.
Okay. The Justice Department recently reclassified marijuana as a Schedule III drug. Do you support that, and should it be removed from the Controlled Substances Act altogether?
I support that. I think it was a good first step 25 years ago. I think that it should be completely eliminated from the Controlled Substance Act.
Okay. Let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare spending is projected to rise faster than any other federal government program over the next few decades, actually. It's already a quarter of the budget. How would you curb healthcare spending while maintaining or improving the quality of care?
That's so tough. So I was at a meeting the other day, and I was shocked to learn that 70% of all of our healthcare expenses in America are administrative only, meaning 30% is only, the actual services that the doctors are performing. We need regulations to cut back on that. So I would be open to exploring any type of regulations to eliminate that administrative overhead, and I would be more than open to exploring single-payer healthcare in America. I think that there's many other countries all across the planet that healthcare system is thriving for them, and there's a reason that Americans pay more per capita for healthcare than any other modernized country on the planet. So I think our for-profit healthcare system needs a good solid look in the mirror.
Colorado has 43 rural hospitals, and half of them are in the red. CEOs say they can't get loans because the banks see them as risk. Should the federal government help, and if so, how?
The federal government should offer subsidies. They should divert federal tax dollars to pay for rural health care, because I've been traveling through northeastern Colorado and all over the Eastern Plains, and it's a recurring theme for those folks. They're driving 2-3 hours for health care sometimes. The addiction recovery community, people don't have access to the health care they need. The mental health care is not accessible either. Like, that affects all of us. So that's what federal tax dollars are meant to do, benefit the greater good and the collective, and I think we have a responsibility to do so.
Do you support Medicare for all? And
Yes.
if so, how would you pay for that?
Yeah, that's always the question. I find it funny that we never ask how we're going to pay for a multi-trillion-dollar war in Afghanistan for 20 plus years, but we ask how are we going to pay for healthcare. There's always ways to do so. I fully support Medicare for all. I think it would actually save taxpayers a lot of money in the long run, and that's part of the equation that's commonly left out. But again, back to making the billionaire class pay their fair share, reducing our military defense budget spending, and stopping the state of perpetual warfare that swallows up most of our federal tax dollars.
A real important issue to the whole state, but in particular CD4, is water. Years ago, the city of Thornton bought up farms around northern Colorado, and it's now cashing in on their water rights. Douglas County has also considered buying water from the San Luis Valley. Do you support urban areas taking water from rural areas?
No, I do not, because typically those rural areas need the water themselves, and I think the specific deal with Douglas County is them taking advantage of them. I think Douglas County needs to focus on equitable and sustainable growth and find out how to conserve water, not swallow it up from drought-stricken regions.
Do you support additional tax credits for renewable energy
Yes.
in particular? So how would you pay for those?
Always the question, right?
Yeah.
I feel like a broken record a little bit. The military defense budget, I think we could pay for almost everything out of that.
Do you support a ban on new oil and gas drilling?
So I'm very receptive to this because I live in Weld County, and I talk to so many fossil fuel workers that are scared of losing their job. I would support a transitory ban, assuming that the legislation was in place to make sure that all displaced fossil fuel workers have a means to provide for their families. I don't want to harm anybody in the process, but I recognize the urgency that we need to decarbonize.
Do you support any new gun control laws?
Absolutely.
In particular, should there be a red flag law at
Yes.
the federal level?
Yes.
Anything else?
Yeah, I support like a National Safe Storage Act. I support raising the purchase age to 21, and I even support liability insurance requirements for firearm owners, and I would even support a Canadian-style firearm licensing system. We need to get a driver's license. It wouldn't be that much to ask for you to have a driver's license to obtain a firearm with a comprehensive background check, a psychological examination.
A ban on semi-automatic assault-style weapons?
I think so. The ATF is one of the most underfunded institutions in our country. They can't currently even enforce the laws that are on the books right now. So my question to that is, how do we pay for it? And until I could see the specifics to that, I wouldn't support it.
Okay. Let's talk about foreign policy. Should the federal government do more or less to help Israel? And what about the Palestinians?
At this point, until Israel decides to comply with international laws and stops killing innocent civilians, I think that we should stop our munition shipments and our federal aid that's going to Israel.
What about additional aid to those in Gaza?
Absolutely. We need to let the humanitarian aid in, and it should be a globally coordinated effort.
Okay. Should the U.S. send troops to Taiwan if it's attacked by China?
Such a controversial topic. I support Taiwan's autonomy. I support them being our huge ally and, really bringing peace and stability to the Indo-Pacific region. I don't think we should let China bully them. I think we should invest in deterrent methods to really beef up their defensive capacities and let China know and let the world know on the international stage that we will protect them. So I think everything should go into deterrence to prevent it from ever getting to that in the first place.
How would you rate President Joe Biden's performance as president?
That's difficult too. I'll give Joe Biden about a 6 out of 10. I think he's done some really good things, and I think that he's dealt with one of the least effective Congresses in United States history that can't even pass a budget. So I don't want to shell all the burden onto Mr. Joe Biden. I want to shell it to Congress that won't get good legislation to his desk.
Would you have preferred a Democratic candidate other than President Biden this year?
Yes. And nobody specifically. I would have liked to see the Democratic Party allow an open primary process. I would like to have seen someone younger on the presidential ballot, even if they weren't going to win, but to at least maybe push Joe Biden in a different direction to adopt policies that he might have closed the door on. I think having an open primary, allows conversation and allows the country to get pushed forward. When the Democratic Party kind of just rallied around Joe Biden and said he's our nominee, it kind of, shut out opportunity for anybody else to gain a voice.
Lastly, how do you win in a district that is overwhelmingly Republican?
Sure. So this is the number one question we get at the doors and in every community. Lauren Boebert. Okay, Lauren Boebert gives us a 9% advantage running as Democrats in CD4. 47% of the district is unaffiliated. You can't win being a typical Democrat, and I define myself as being an unconventional Democrat, someone who grew up in rural America, someone who's witnessed the abandonment by both major political parties, and someone who can speak to conservative folks about those values. We're building a movement of youth voters, of senior citizens, of teachers, farmers, working families. We're building a collective movement. That this campaign isn't about me. It's about all the people in the multi-county coalition that we're building that want to reject Lauren Boebert, that want to reject extremism. So that's how we win. We raise the money because the national attention is on CD4, which we've never had before, and we work really hard. We're knocking thousands of doors every week. And so making those intimate connections with voters and letting them know that you're going to stand up and fight for them, that's how we win.